Good day, everyone, and welcome to Chop It Up with Attorney Linda Bernard. It's a pleasure to see everyone today and realize what a glorious day this is that the Lord has blessed us with, and hopefully a great weekend. I'm Attorney Linda Bernard, also Police Commissioner Linda Bernard for the City of Detroit, and you're watching us on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world as well as the nation. You can check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, all of the social media platforms, and you can also call in to us at 313-355-6018 so we can just keep the vibe going with your questions. My guest today is a very distinguished, very handsome gentleman, as you can see. His name is the Honorable Sean Perkins. He was recently appointed to the 36th District Court here in the city of Detroit, and we're going to talk a little bit about the court and about him personally. I think you'll be excited about him in terms of his pedigree and in terms of his experience. I know that I was, and I am. Welcome, Sean, to Chop It Up.
Thank you, Attorney, Commissioner, and TV personality Bernard. Thank you for having me.
Oh, Judge Perkins, it was, ladies and gentlemen, I had the opportunity to attend and take lots of pictures at his, it was called a swearing in, but it was really a coronation. I want you to picture this, ladies and gentlemen. We're in Blessed Sacrament Cathedral. Detroit is blessed. I'm a Catholic, so I know it well. Detroit is blessed to have two basilicas. There are only 13 basilicas in the entire United States of America. We have two. One is Blessed Sacrament Cathedral, and the other is the church down on Woodward near 12 Mile, the
Shrine,
the shrine,
where I
right?
went to high school.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that. I couldn't believe that you went to mass in that church every day because when I went to Catholic school and stuff, we had to go to mass every day. So um, we have two basilicas. This gentleman is the only person, to my knowledge, in the history of this city, in the history of this community, actually, and in the history of any of our courts, Supreme Court, Court of Appeals, or certainly District Court or Federal Court, to have his a quote coronation at the cathedral at at the altar of our Lord Jesus Christ. It was unbelievable. How
Thank you,
did you
thank you.
do this? I mean, you just wiped everybody and everything else out.
Well, I'll tell you what, how that I got. First of all, give all glory to God. 'Cause,
Absolutely.
and I want to tell you to be honest. I'm putting everything my mom set up. So, mom, if you're watching or if you watch, I thank you so much because she, from start to finish, from every little detail, she had. She that was her vision, and what she did was fabulous.
So she's a member of the church there of the
She is a member
of
of
the
the church
cathedral.
of the cathedral, and that kind of started out when we were probably in a time in our lives where we were probably at the lowest point, I think, financially in our lives, and we moved on the north end, and I was 10 years old or so, 9, 10 years old, and we were looking for another church to
You were
attend.
Catholic.
I wasn't Catholic.
Oh,
And I'm not Catholic now.
okay.
But I have my mom became Catholic, and we found that church because of Father Robinson, and Father Robinson was a figure in my life, sort of like a
This is
person
a
like.
white gentleman.
No, it's a black.
Okay,
Father Robinson is a black guy.
because my priest, Father Parker, is black as well. From New
Yes,
York. Mhm.
and I just really learned the gravity and of what Father Robinson had accomplished in this country on his upon his death, and that was, I think, sometime in 2017 or somewhere in there. He just passed away about 5, 6, 7 years ago, and he was from Selma, Alabama, and he became a towering figure in the Catholic Church. There's a story about a cemetery down there, and the cemetery would not bury this black priest, and Father Robinson galvanized the priest, Monsignor Robin, I should say, because he's
Oh,
Monsignor now, Robinson, galvanized the priest, and they told him that if you do not allow this person to be buried there, we are going to remove all. I got this group of figures that family members. They're going to remove their bodies, and then turn them somewhere else, and that would open that cemetery up to black folks being
wow.
buried there. And we're talking about a time, I'm sure in the 60s and probably late 60s or 70s. But when I came to know Father Robinson as a young man, he was like a person like my dad.
You were 10.
I was 10, and my dad was the kind of guy that just commanded. Respect wherever he went. It was sort of revered, and Father Robinson was that type of figure. And you just looked at him, and anything you were thinking or anything anything, you just straightened right up.
Correct.
So that's how we became a part of that church. And then when we came down to where we were going to have it, we entertained a lot of different places. And I told my mom I'm just staying out of it, but she entertained a lot of different places. And the cathedral opened arms and says we would love to have it. So
Well, the church was packed.
Yeah.
From the front to the back.
Yeah.
And the side pews. It was unbelievable. I swear, in the history of this city, there has never been a swearing in ceremony as large or as really as religious, quite frankly, in many respects, as thoughtful, as sincere, as warm, as loving as your ceremony.
Well, I appreciate it, and like I say,
And you had your mom right there. She was your best girl.
she's the leader. She's
I
the
understand.
leader,
Mm-hmm.
and she put a lot of time and thought. I know a lot of people probably like, I'll never deal with this woman again. But when they came, they understood the detail that she expected, and it was just phenomenal.
She takes care of business, but it was a very emotional, very moving service. It lasted more than 2 hours. And ladies and gentlemen, you just can't even begin to understand the splendor and also the joy that was in your face as you embraced your brothers and your mom and your wife and your family. It was really private but extraordinarily public.
Yeah, well, I have a family that we're very tight knit. I got 5 other brothers and
No sisters.
no sisters,
As I recall, right?
And it really throughout it all, my mom and dad were the figures that they kept us in order. There's some things that in our lifetime that they don't accept nowadays,
Right.
but that's what kept us grounded in order, and I attribute what my success, or what people probably perceive as my success, to the hard times that we came through when I was younger.
Why don't you tell us about that? How did you become a judge? What was your, what have you done with your life?
Well,
Sean Perkins, with this extraordinary figure of a man as a father. I had one like that too. He called himself the head of the herd. I mean, when he spoke, you got to move it. And even when we were grown, Daddy would say something, and we said, we're not going to do that. I don't want to do that. He say, you may be grown, but we're not equal. I have never forgotten that. He's always here. We're always going to obey.
Right.
So tell me about what
Well,
you
and we can, I know we had limited time.
6
but
boys is a lot.
6 boys.
Ooh, that's a tribe. That's
my,
not a family. That's a tribe.
Yeah, it is.
A lot of testosterone.
Yes, it is.
All the time.
And some of the things that highlight, my mom told me and told all of us.
And she's a little girl. She's a little person.
She says if one person is in a fight, I better see all of you fighting. That's how she told us, you better stick together through whatever. And
I like that.
Thankfully, my brothers, everybody bought in. We couldn't help but buy in.
She's so tiny. But I bet if somebody breathed hard in her direction, all of you all were there.
Don't let that happen. Don't let that fail frame fool you, because she can handle her business. But
she's a tiny lady.
my dad was my dad was very successful, and this is back in the late 60s, in the early 70s, and even preceding then. And through the 70s, he things got rough, and the bottom just fell out. So I can recall, and a lot of things were shielded from me, but I can recall we got evicted from our home. And we moved, and thank God for my grandmother and grandfather on the north end, which we have roots from. My dad was born on the north end in 29. So we have roots over there from, that's where our roots start in the city of Detroit. And they had two family flat, and we lived upstairs. They lived down.
All eight of you.
Well, no. By this time, my oldest brother was old enough. He was moved to California. He pursued his music career. Then my other brother was just getting out of high school, going to college. So it was four of us, and we all lived in the living room. And
The boys did.
Yes, we did.
That was your bedroom.
And that was our bedroom.
That makes sense. That's the largest room in the house.
That was the largest
and put
room.
all you guys in there. Your parents still had their room, which was important.
Right. So from that
That's
point,
cool. I like that.
yeah, from that point, it was financially difficult, but I always say we were very rich
I can tell.
in just family,
Love.
and throughout the hard times, my dad was still a boss. I mean, he just was a boss, and
When he walked up those steps, you all knew it.
and then and even in people in the neighborhood, when they were the baddest guy,
What was his name?
William Donald Perkins.
William
Donald Perkins.
Very
And,
strong name.
Yes, and he was the baddest guy
Is he
in the
alive?
neighborhood. No, my dad passed in '02.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
almost over 20 years. In April 10th, 20 years ago, he passed.
William Donald.
Yeah,
Got
so that's where it all began, and those were those difficult times, and watching my parents go through those difficult times, and we're living those difficult times, which I never thought about. It was all about just family. They made sure we stayed in school. They made sure that things were that's what our focus was going to be and continued on to be. But just seeing that, and now living the life that I'm living now, and I never perceived I would ever be a judge. I thought that I was.
Why did you want to tell us about your history? Just
Yeah,
start
so
the
me-
beginning. In the beginning,
In the
there was a
beginning-
Sean Perkins.
Yes,
a little baby boy.
little baby, and came out, and as a kid,
Handsome,
I
pretty.
always said I wanted to be a lawyer.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
And I took the very unconventional route to get there, and I'm sure a lot of my teachers, even I surprised my parents to that end, because I was basically, a kind of a class clown kind of guy. I enjoyed relationships, friendships, and my teachers just told me, I got, when you in school, you had the 1, 2s, and 3s along with the grades, and the 3s were always the talk too much. I had all
Right.
3s on my.
Oh, Lord, on the conduct part. I got you. so,
So-
you were a misbehavior.
I was sort of a misbehavior in a good way. So if there, I know to much chagrin, I talked to my teacher, Miss Felton. She was our 6th grade teacher. She's 101,
Isn't that wonderful?
and her memory is just as sharp as anybody in this
I
entire
need a
world.
transfusion.
Oh
Go
my goodness! So that's how I started. Then I went on to I went to Detroit Public Schools up to the 10th grade, and I went to Shrine High School and graduated from Shrine High School. Went on to Hampton University. Hampton University, I was one of the ones that was the best grade point average in the first year that I ever had in life, and after that, I did absolutely nothing.
Okay.
And then till the last year I was there, I stayed there 4 years. They were there. It was done. They put me out. It was over with.
There's so many pretty girls there.
Oh my! That was part of the problem. So when I got back here, I'm back on the north end, and I just said to myself, I need to go back, and I need to reinvent myself and do this. So I started part-time jobs, started taking classes there, and then Ford Motor Company came along. 96, I even had the benefit and the pleasure. My dad was when he was out of high school, he went 1 year at Wayne University, and at 68 years old, he decided he wanted to go finish school, and he was sort of my inspiration. As far as I told this guy the other day, I said one day I was at Ford now, I'm able to pay for school and I'm taking a lot more classes, but I'm still not doing like I should be doing. I pulled up in my new car and I saw him walking down Cass Avenue, going to his class. I didn't even honk the horn. I just looked at him, and right then and there, when I saw him, I'm like, look at this old man. He is kicking my butt.
He's inspirational.
And that was my really
I
inspiration
can believe
to
it.
do it.
Me
And
too.
I
Your
just
love, your respect, everything came to the forefront when you
and
saw
and
that.
then by this time he had went back to cutting hair. You know, like he started out as a barber. You know,
Men, but black men then all had multiple skills.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my uncle worked for Ford as well, and he also had a barber shop in the basement of his house. So I understand what you're saying. They knew how to hustle.
They knew how to
how
hustle.
to make money
They knew how to make money
legally.
And the thing is, my father was back in when his day. He one of my court officers. He says, your dad. I went to his barbershop. He franchised barbershops back. He said he was
Really?
forward. Yeah, back in the 60s.
Before they were
he had
franchised.
10 barbershops at one time in the city of Detroit.
Oh my gosh!
But so he went
I
back.
didn't know he was an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
like
he
that.
was an entrepreneur like that. Had a couple of bars, nightclubs, a store, a liquor store. But anyway, he was that inspiration. So I had the benefit of being able to walk across the stage with him at graduation. He did graduate a semester before me, but they allowed me to walk, and I have that picture, and I kind of cherish that picture.
I agree.
But then I'm working at Ford. I move on to in Ford on the line, and
What are you doing on the line?
I worked the line. We worked in the stamping plant. So whatever line they put me on, we're stamping out these parts. Then I've always looked to better and tried to get more. So I looked at the high-low driver. I'm like, man,
That's what my uncle did. You make
yeah.
more money.
Well,
right.
and you just do. You don't have to stand there all the time. The high-low driver's sitting there
Sitting
reading
on the seat.
He's on his seat, and I'm sitting here, and I said, how do I get that job? So I went out and got that
But
job.
before you tell me, let me just do this real quick station break.
Okay.
You're watching WJZZ Cool TV, Chop It Up with attorney Linda Bernard. My guest today is a very handsome, very distinguished judge, Mr. and attorney Sean Perkins. Go ahead, Sean.
So, we move on to from
So
the
you get the high-low?
Next thing you know, the skilled trades come up. I took the test. I passed the test, and in 2002, I got on skilled trades as an apprentice pipe fitter. Got my journeyman card in 2006, and
Well, I didn't know you were a skilled laborer. I knew you had been in
Yeah.
the plant, but I did not know that you had learned. I mean, you could work anywhere in the world.
yeah, I got my
Go to
journeyman card.
Bangladesh tomorrow.
I'm a
and-
pipe
and
fitter,
work.
and I did that from 2002 up until last year. Before I got I got a little ahead of myself. I went to journeyman school, went to trade school, got out 2006, got my journeyman's card, and in 2008 was the first time in my UAW career that I got laid off. And thank God for the UAW.
Agree.
It's
Okay.
just anybody that talks about unionizing, and you have to do it because that's the only way we can seek a contractual relationship with the company that we know definitively what's expectations of us and what and when I say meaning the laborers,
It
and
evens the playing field.
It
It
evens the playing field, and so that is when I got laid off, and I said I'm going to law school. So my dream had never diminished about being a lawyer. I just never thought it was going to
Man,
happen.
you were making so much money as a journeyman. You were rolling.
It was not a bad
You were
life.
a big dog.
It's not a bad life. It's not a bad life. So I went to law school, and they called me back to work during law school. So now I'm doing both, and I've got to thank Thomas Cooley School of Law. They let me in, and they have the curriculum and the hours for working class people and working people. I took
I didn't
once
know that.
yeah once I got there, I was laid off, so I can just go on a regular schedule. I still wanted to be full time, but I had to go back to work. I had a full time schedule on the weekends, so I went to school Saturday, Sunday, and I got out in 3 years.
That is wonderful.
Yeah, so
That is wonderful, and I didn't know that about the Thomas Cooley Law School.
Y'all, Thomas Cooley is, sometimes give a bad rap in perceived in the law school circles as, but they have
it worked for you.
But
For many others.
But I'll tell you what, the Thomas Cooley in the legal circles, once you get out, we are some of the most prepared lawyers, and I'll take that to any law firm will tell you that after they hire a Thomas Cooley lawyer.
Okay then.
And if you look at it, it's just a lot of Thomas Cooley lawyers that are on the bench.
So you finished law school working full time in 3 years.
Raising a family,
And
had
raising
3
your
kids,
family.
yes.
Okay. And then what did you? Then you took the bar
Took the bar.
and decided to start practicing law. What did you continue with the journey? As
So
a
I
journeyman?
continued at I continued at Ford. My brother, I had the privilege of having a brother, Todd Perkins, who when I started at Ford in '96, he started practicing law in '96.
Okay.
And through a lot of bumps and things in the road, my dad was there to help him as far as the business end of it. He became a successful attorney, and
very successful.
Yeah, I had the privilege of being able to learn under his tutelage, and all I had to do at that point was I said, well, he's got everything laid out. I just can't come in and mess nothing up. So, and he threw me right out there. So I worked in the morning at practicing law, and then in the afternoon I went into Ford because I was already entrenched. My kids were going to school, and I wasn't trying to disrupt that. They were starting college.
Where did you get this work ethic from your daddy?
I
It
guess
sounds like it's unbelievable. I mean, you're like the Energizer Bunny. You never stop. 3 kids, a wife, practicing law in the morning, going to the plant in the afternoon. Unbelievable.
And let me say, to all that are watching or listening, thank God for my wife, because without her, there would be no me. She has endured and has been that foundation in our family to take care of any loose ends that were there and tie up everything. So I would not be able to have done that without the benefit of having a beautiful and just lovely, smart, and just God-fearing wife as I have.
You make good choices.
I try.
You and your daddy both.
And, on the bench, I try to impress upon the people that
Tell
come
us
in
about
front of me.
that. When did you go on the bench?
The bench I started last year, almost a year, right to this month.
And you were appointed?
I was appointed by the governor. And
So then you stopped before. Have you stopped?
then I stopped for it. I stopped for it.
Even though you could do it from midnight to 8 a.m., I guess, yeah.
I stopped for it. So, I've got on the bench, and they put me on the traffic docket, which I love because I think the traffic is sort of the foundation for a lot of cases come as it relates to traffic.
As a police commissioner, I tell everyone that every case starts with what? A police report.
Yes.
That ticket is a police report.
It is a police report.
And whether it's a big time felony or whatever it is, it starts with a police report. And that document, a ticket or indictment, it is the most critical document in any proceeding.
And anyway.
And I'm so glad that you're there to address these issues.
Yeah, and first of all, the essentials of a driver's license go, really unrecognized until you don't have one.
Mm-hmm.
It is the way that we get from point A to. We don't have the best mass transit system in Detroit.
Right.
And that's just a fact. So people have to drive. The city is set up for us to drive from point A to point B.
144 square miles.
Yes, and without that license, you're at a distinct disadvantage. So when I got there, my main purpose, I talked to my staff. I said, our main focus is to try and make it to everybody that comes through this court can get a valid driver's license. And we're trying to keep it fair and reasonable.
So you are proactive rather than reactive like most judges. Let me, lock them up and throw away the key. Let me not try to solve the problem. I don't even hear the issues for this person and their life. You hear, you listen, you care.
I care, and thank goodness I come into an administration with our chief judge, William McConaughey, that has basically he's adopted that. So I come into an administration that has already adopted these things. So I look back at some of the rulings where we were just 4, 5, 6 years ago as a practicing lawyer, a driving while license suspended. You want $1,000 fine. You want this person to get GED.
Keep them under your heel.
Yeah, you want this person to be on probation. Those
Forever.
things are, and thank goodness those days are gone now. So
And the purpose of that probation so you can catch another case. Really, quite frankly.
Well, I think it's that can happen. I don't know if the judge is thinking that way. The purpose, I think, we're giving them the benefit of the doubt is try and make sure that this person is leading the type of life that is perceived to be. But what are we talking about? We're talking about traffic. We're
Correct.
talking about a traffic ticket.
Correct.
In all intents and purposes. Correct. And what so you have to I keep that realization every day when I is this person, or we're not dealing with somebody that's doing robberies, shootings, and things.
No,
we're talking about somebody that probably
plate expired.
Plate
like the
expired.
guy that just got killed in Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
He had put the plate on a different car. Most people think they can do that. I mean, when you talk to them, they don't realize you have to go Secretary of State to do that.
And honestly, you have people that don't understand that. They paid for this plate.
Right, so they think they can put on any car. Just like at the dealer. When you go to the dealer, they put a plate on the car to take you for a ride.
Yes.
They think you can just do that. But you can't.
These are the things that, as a judge, and as a person that grew up in the city of Detroit, I realize, so what I try to do in my focus every day is to make sure that I try to walk in each and every person that comes before me's shoes. Because we do not know what they have been through, what they're going through, and we don't want to make a situation where you're trying to get to work, or even if you're just hanging out driving. We don't want to make this situation and make this person a criminal in that regard.
And it's easy to do that.
It is.
It
is
really
criminal.
is.
It's a criminal offense.
It is, and I'm not even sure that it should be, quite frankly. Yeah. Particularly all the offenses where we're just enforcing the Secretary of State stuff. The man in the who's a state trooper, a black man, was telling me how many offenses are really just related to paper offenses, if you will, and how he doesn't agree with any of that. I haven't had him on yet, but I'm going to. He's a Michigan State trooper, and so it's interesting. And I tell people this: why put your life in jeopardy, so to speak? Because the tag is expired. I mean, you could pull up to somebody and just tell them, I don't have to go through all that stuff where I'm trying to lock you up and run your name to see if there's a warrant out for you for missing a court date.
Right.
All this kind of stuff. I mean, your life is precious too.
And then where we really, I think, if you really want to get to the crux of the problem, is the insurance rates.
Right.
I am basically a civil servant. My salary is set, and everybody can find out my salary. I have difficulty.
It's $136,000, ladies and gentlemen. I think for all district court judges.
Now it's up to $158,000.
Oh, wonderful!
Yeah,
you deserved it.
So, but that out of that $158,000, I still have to pay $800 a month just to have the insurance on my automobiles.
Right.
And that's before we've paid any.
That's $9,600 a year.
Yeah, that's $9,600.
And for most people, that is terribly prohibitive. My insurance is high too.
Yeah, so we're talking about people
in Detroit.
That are a lot of people.
It's the black tax
that get don't have a driver's license because they couldn't afford that insurance. Therefore, they couldn't get the plate on their vehicle, but they still have to get to work.
Correct.
So as a judge, I have to sit there and when I say fair, reasonable, and think fairness and reasonableness, I have to make sure that I keep those in my head as I'm adjudicating these cases.
Well, I can speaking for the community. We appreciate that, and we appreciate you, and we appreciate your orientation and your fairness and insight to what's really happening with the community. You're not up there. You're listening to the drumbeat down here, and that is so very important. And ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Chop It Up with Attorney Linda Bernard, also Police Commissioner Linda Bernard. My guest today is the very distinguished Judge Sean Perkins. You can watch us, listen to us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, every social media platform, and you can hear what this gentleman has to say about his life, his orientation towards justice, which is what he meets out every day as a judge, and he does it, ladies and gentlemen, as one of the very few black men on the 36th District Court. How many are there?
Black men, we just lost one, a good one in Christopher Blount. Now, luckily, he's got to the circuit court.
Oh, he did. I didn't know
Yes,
that.
he just got an appointment to the circuit court, so we haven't lost him in the sense that he's still on the bench. And he's at another level now, but we have Judge McConaughey, myself, we have Judge Kevin Robbins, we have Judge David Robinson, and we have my neighbor, and
Five of you.
yes, and
So it's five of you. Out of how many altogether?
out of I think maybe 29 judges on the bench.
Okay, so 24 are female.
Yeah, and I don't quote me on the number there.
What about that?
Yeah, it's around around about there. So
I find that so disturbing, even as an African American woman. I'm taking nothing away from any of my sisters and so forth. I've just found what I like about you as a judge is your maturity. There's a difference between the way people think when they're 30 and when they're over 40, so to speak. You have different life experiences. It's experiences that I think help you mete out justice. It's not just the law. I tell everyone, justice is not just reading the statute or the law. It's the application of the law to the facts that in which you obtain justice. And unless you have some life experiences and some, if you will, gravitas, I don't think you can get justice. And I've listened to the judges, and they go back and forth and this and that and the other, but it's your maturity and your experiences, and I think that should be a criteria for a judgeship. Have you done anything other than the law, for example?
Right.
What have you done with your life? What are your achievements? As my brother used to say all the time, check the record book.
right.
I mean, let's see what you really are about, and we don't do that. Everyone was excited about your appointment because everybody applauded. They said, finally, we got somebody, with some real sense, some real maturity, some life experiences, a parent, a this or that. It wasn't just a fashion thing for you, not just a notch in your belt, so to speak.
And you know something, I'm going to go and say I have to give credit to the governor and her staff. Because during the process, I come to this application process as a person that came along with the bar card that's pretty late in life. I was in my 30s when I got my bar card. I had the experience of, I on my essay, I wrote all the experiences we had. That story I told you, and I left out a lot for time purposes. It was a lot more difficult when I look back on it. But I think that they took all of that in consideration, and I thankfully was successful, and here I am now. So I got to give credit to the governor and their staff, and they did a very thorough vetting process in my regard, because they came up and they asked me some very difficult questions, but they realized that some of the things you need. I imagine they realize that you need somebody on the bench with those type of life experiences.
But the 36th District Court reflects the community. It's basically black.
Yes.
But the Circuit Court, Wayne County, is basically overwhelmingly white.
Overwhelmingly.
Why do you think that is?
Well, it goes back to our history in Detroit, where we had Detroit Recorder's Court. And Detroit Recorder's Court was a court that was made up because they said that Detroit was overwhelmingly black, maybe 80-90%.
Still about
88%. And you're supposed to be judged by a jury of your peers. And at that time, in that climate at that time, felt that they were not being judged by a jury with their peers, and then came the evolution of Detroit Recorder's Court, and a lot of the judges became circuit court judges out of that because they were elected out of the city. And then they were adopted into the third circuit court system.
But there are only a few of us now on the Wayne County Circuit Court.
Because Detroit Recorder's Court is no longer.
Oh, I know, but that was just the criminal division. That's all they allowed
Yes.
us to do.
Well, that's where a lot of them came from.
Yeah.
And basically being adopted that adopted them into the Third Circuit judiciary.
But now I think it's principally white and female, isn't it?
It's principally white and female, and now
nobody with your depth of experience. Very few. They just. It seems to be very political.
And
Probably is.
I would say that a judge is a nonpartisan position, but I'm sure that they are elected on party lines. And you're talking about a circuit court where you're Wayne County wide now. You have to run in Detroit being your main city in the county, but you got a lot of other cities that are high voting, and that leads me into the importance of voting. We have to get back to voting. It is important and it does matter.
But we vote, as you know, I mean, it's become, the court now has become somewhat of a hustle position. People change their name so that they will have the name of existing judges because you vote for names that you recognize. There's certain golden names in this community, and you know them well, that automatically almost make sure that you're almost automatically become a judge. Hathaway, of course, is one of those. You don't even know who you're voting for. I mean, but the court, in some respects, has become so bastardized as a result of this. It's interesting to me when I appear before judges, and as you have, which is the best part about you,
I've been for judges.
how limited they are, how biased they are, how immature they are, how I mean, it's unbelievable to me.
Well, I think that everybody brings their own life. Everybody's going to bring their own life
They
experience.
don't have any.
About how, well, they have their own life experience, and it may be vastly different than us, but how they are elected. Well, let me say this. I don't fault somebody for the way they got to where they got. If you can do it, if it works for you, then it works for you. And really, where the
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, where the fault
I
lies
didn't know this was even on.
is
I'm listening.
yeah, where the fault lies is our voting population needs to educate themselves. And they need to educate themselves. And it starts out with knowing the importance of casting that ballot. I always, you're getting me on my soapbox now, because in the court, in open court, I always talk about voting and the importance of voting. Now, I never talk about who to vote for, and I tell them, quite frankly, you find your own person that fits your own ideology. And I tell them the local elections are the most important.
Absolutely.
So because those are the people that have the direct influence on your life, and not to diminish the national things, but we get into the national election because there's a lot of money thrown at it. So there's a lot of publicity, and people understand. Sometimes these local elections, they don't want you to go vote. Sometimes for some candidates, a vote when this group of population does not vote, that's like 2 votes for them. So they're very astute in where to get the votes from and where to go out and campaign. So I cannot fault them for that. I fault the voting population. We need to do a better job of educating ourselves, and we as people that are in the know, more so to speak, quote unquote, need to do a better job of educating the people in our community and how important it is.
Because in the last election, only 18% of the city voted, which was amazing. I mean, that's like a new all-time low.
And because we were in we go to the community meetings. You're at every community meeting, and I really appreciate that about you. That keeps us. But in that same community meeting, I think somebody brought up the fact that, well, in District two, we're the highest voting
Yeah, we are.
population
We are.
there.
We are.
But then another person brought to the forefront. Well, they only voted 22% of the
Right,
time.
right.
So I thought about it when we were on in that
We
meeting
did.
in Zoom. You see all the participants. There's 100 participants in that room from District 2. You can say only 22 of those, and you and I were two of them.
Right.
So only 20 other people actually voted.
Right. It has lost its, and that was a mayoral election. So that goes back to what you said earlier about the importance of local elections.
The
and so
importance
forth.
of it.
But let's broaden our scope a little bit here as we move forward. And again, you're watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. We're right here in the city of Detroit. My guest today, I'm Attorney Linda Bernard. You're watching Chop It Up with Attorney Linda Bernard. And my guest is the eminent and honorable Judge Sean Perkins. There are a couple of things I'd like to remind our audience about today, and that's on July 9th. Paul Taylor and Jeff Kaisha will be at the Ford Community and Performing Arts Center. Tickets are available at eventbrite.com at 8 o'clock. This is a live productions, ALIVE. Productions presents One Night in Detroit. Both of these artists are very distinguished artists, and I think you would enjoy them. And then also, there is a Senior Expo and Health Fair. Wellness, quote, rocks. Saturday, August 27th, 2022. We got a few months for that, from 11 to 6. It's going to be in the Ernest T. Ford Recreation Center in Highland Park, Michigan. It'll be live entertainment. All seniors should come. There's going to be healthcare providers present. Of course, there'll be health screenings, which everyone enjoys, and I like them personally. And I urge you to attend and put it on your calendar for August 27th, 2022. 11 to 6 at Ernest T. Ford Recreation Center. As I said earlier, a live productions, one night only, July 9th. Paul Taylor at the Ford Community and Performing Arts Center in Dearborn, which is a wonderful venue, a wonderful concert venue, quite frankly. Again, my guest is Judge Sean Perkins. Sean, our community, both of us as lawyers, were sort of shook up this week as a result of the leak of a draft Supreme Court opinion, which I think is a federal offense, quite frankly, in my mind. It's unbelievable that this would happen. And from my perspective, I don't know how you feel about it, I wouldn't release anything until we discovered the leaker.
Well,
I mean, everything, if I was chief judge, it would be hold it here. We're going to get to the bottom of this first before we deal with anything else. How do you feel?
Well, I'm telling you, not so much concerned about the leak as the opinion. But the
I'm
leak,
concerned about that too, but the leak.
here's how I feel about the leak. The leak, I'm thinking the leak was orchestrated by the people. They wanted the people to see the reaction to the opinion and what type of reaction that they were going to get.
If somebody in your office betrayed your trust to that level and leaked something that you had an informal opinion on or a draft opinion on or whatever, that's a serious issue to me. That preempts everything. I mean, because trust is everything.
Well, we're assuming now, and I'm not saying I know one way or the other.
Well,
but if
there's a lot of
somebody in my office did that and betrayed my trust,
you would investigate.
But if they had betrayed but what if I were the one that authorized that to be put out there?
So you think maybe one of the other justices?
Listen, I'm not going to get into those type of assumptions.
I hadn't thought of that.
All I do, and as a lawyer, this is what we have to think. Wait a minute. I can't assume where it came from or who had knowledge of it. But like I say,
the assumption is that no other justice would. But that's an assumption.
That's an assumption. That's an assumption.
You make an ass out of me and you,
yes.
right?
So what I look at, that's why I disregard. I set aside the leak. I set aside the leak because that's not as important to me as the opinion. And the opinion, they've already confirmed that this is the document is
the draft.
It's the draft. So we know that.
Right.
But that opinion If it comes into a real opinion of the court, then that is what's the dangerous part. That is the most alarming part for me.
Well, it actually says three things. The first is that the 15-week cutoff for abortions in Mississippi would be legal. That was the first question. The second question was the issue of whether or not the whole issue of abortion was constitutional. And the third was whether or not a woman has a constitutional right to have an abortion. Um, as a woman, it's, I think, actually absolutely disgraceful that only women pay the burden for having sex.
Yeah.
You can walk away,
Yeah.
drop your load, keep it moving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could be in the wind tomorrow, you
Yeah.
know, and then I'm stuck, with, you quote, your seed, so to speak. And under this opinion, I have no ability to do anything with this because you're in the wind. Papa was a rolling stone,
Right.
as the song goes. Wherever he laid his hat was his home. So then the woman or women are just stuck like this. It's inconceivable to me. I mean, I haven't read the detail of the decision. I don't know if you have.
Partially.
Okay. On the constitutional issues, where do you come out?
Well, on the constitutional issue, and I read a few pages. I got.
It's 33 pages, isn't it? Or
It was, well, the draft that I saw was 90 some odd pages,
Oh,
but
wow.
that, you also have the other justices,
The dissents.
dissents and things like that. So I don't know exactly how many pages the actual opinion was of the majority.
But even with the dissents, right? Okay.
Yeah. So, but
And explain what a dissent is. For our
well,
audience.
so what you have in the Supreme Court, you have the 9 justices, and those 9 justices, if you come out with a 5, you have to have the majority. So the majority, they vote.
Ordinary, like our table.
5-4, 6-3,
Or 9-0.
or 9-0.
Okay.
But they have, if you come out on the 5-4, the 5 wins and the other 4 lose. But those other 4 get to the opportunity to express themselves and their reasoning in the dissent.
The dissenting opinion.
The dissenting
not the
opinion.
majority opinion.
Not the majority opinion. So, and they can take on any number of positions that they want to dissent. Sometimes they agree on some of the things that the majority wrote, but their conclusion in this other portion of their thing would negated their vote, and they could get the opportunity to express themselves like that. They don't have to. Mm-hmm. So, what the essential part that I understand is that, and this is what was written in the actual majority opinion, is that abortion is nowhere in the Constitution. And sort of that's how they started to formulate their opinion on that. And they started from that. But my thing is, there's a lot of words that aren't in the Constitution that are constitutional.
Correct.
And
They've been interpreted as being a right.
Right. And I think that the essential portion of it is you as a woman. You have your side saying, I have my right to privacy. I have the right and liberty to do what I choose best with my body. The other side is saying that liberty and privacy right does not extend to your body because of the fact that there's another person inside of you. So that's where the two sides are lying, as I understand it. And then you go into the opinion of Roe versus Wade, and in that opinion, we're getting all into constitutional law, right? And that opinion, they're talking about how this came about. That was the essential thing, and they adopted that standard. And it was a strict scrutiny standard. The judicial reviews are so. How do we? I don't want to delve so far into the constitutional law aspect of it because it's kind of been more time than we have to talk. But that is what's going on. So I look at it as, on one note, sort of the hypocrisy in some people, because while you're saying this woman has no choice on what she does with her body, and especially in the context, and we're talking about even the context of incest and rape.
Correct.
They can't even get an
It was
abortion.
your daughter, right?
Yeah, and then you turn around and we look at what we've been dealing with the last year and 2 years. This pandemic. There's the sort of the same people that are pro life are saying you can't force me to take a COVID shot.
Right.
So I have the right to insert anything in my body that I want to.
Correct.
And then but on this other token, some of those same people are saying that you a woman can't,
right.
that you don't have that right. So that's
and they also are for the death penalty. So if life was so sacred, why isn't all life sacred?
Why isn't all life sacred? So
there's so many,
that's the hypocrisy in people. But when we all look at it, it all rolls back to voting. It just all rolls back to voting.
In a sense, that's what the opinion is saying, that they're saying there's no constitutional right, I think, to an abortion, but each state can individually establish its policies and so forth on this topic. And so it becomes a voting issue, 100% voting issue in every single state.
You're correct in saying that, absolutely. But I'm talking about the voting issue, the national issue, because who do we have? We have, we're in power, just left, we had the Republicans at the presidency, and the Republicans are the one that, luckily for them, they had 3 seats on the Supreme Court. That's kind of unprecedented. Mm-hmm. 3 times in a 4-year span, you get to appoint the people that have these certain ideologies.
Correct.
The unfortunate part about it is that some of those people sat in front of Congress, in front of the Congress, and told the Congress that their views on this very case, and then as the opinion comes off, they take a different view.
They flipped.
So, but
and our new Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, it hasn't been seated yet. She won't be seated until the fall because the Supreme Court is going on recess in June, and then they're out till September, and then that's that.
Correct. And then she hasn't, I think this opinion is supposed to be coming out in June.
Yes.
So
it's scheduled
so it'll be before
next month.
And they've already argued the case. It'll precede her. So but that all rolls around back to voting. Back to getting the person in office that has the same ideologies as yourself. And the same principles as
Correct.
Yourself. So it all falls full circle, and I just can't stress the importance. I can't tell you who to vote for. And Judge, I'm not into politics. I'm a nonpartisan person.
As am I. Mm-hmm.
And but you have to find what works for you and your ideology. But your vote does count, and it does meaning. Even in the context when you don't win, you at least get to express your feelings on different topics.
What about these people that are now going to the homes of the justices? There's an act there. Yesterday it was proposed in Congress that the Congress authorize 24-hour security for justices and their families. Amy Coney Bryant, Barrett Bryant, Barrett, I'm sorry. Has like 6 kids, 2 of whom are black, as you recall she had adopted. Those were the most well-behaved children I've ever seen in my life. I mean, all 6 of them sat there. They didn't move. They didn't have cell phones. They weren't playing on game boards. They were like you were when you were with your parents. The 6 boys, they sat there. They might be bored, but they weren't fiddling and acting up and going under the seats and none of that. Those kids were unbelievable. I remember watching her hearing. I said, that's like old school black families. Those kids were in good clothes, in their Sunday clothes, and they acted like it.
Well, I can only imagine
your daddy would have killed you.
Yeah, I can only imagine hearings like that. It's like a.
But for 5 hours for the kids to sit there,
you
boys would have had to sit there for 5 hours.
It'd be tough, but my dad would have made it work because
you got to look at him and then you know. But again, thank you for explaining this opinion to us and the importance of voting, because it's a matter of policy now. If the opinion comes out like it's written, if nobody switches their vote, then it'll be the law of the land, and it'll be up to the states. Quite frankly, so we've really got to vote on this issue.
Well, we really have to move forward, or really respect the right, and especially as minorities, we didn't always have this right, and women didn't always have this right.
No.
And there's people that have died, that have been maimed, that have been jailed, beaten, for us to have that right.
Right.
And we're really doing those people a real, and ourselves, injustice, in not exercising that right.
Ladies and gentlemen, when you see Judge Sean Perkins on the street, say hello. Say you saw him on Chop It Up with Attorney Linda Bernard. He's a great guy, great jurist, great lawyer. Thank you so much for joining us today.
And thank you.